Richard Hobart Groves, Groves. Yes, came home from Princeton occasionally, but then I went to West Point, and we didn't get out of West Point for a year and a half. I came home at Christmas of '43 for 5 days, and he wasn't here. And came home for Christmas in '44, and he wasn't here either, I guess. I used to see him occasionally at West Point. He'd come up there on business or whatever. I saw very little of him in person. I heard a lot from him in the way of mail, depending on who was writing it. And Mrs. O'Leary wrote about half of it, so it's hard to say, although they were pretty much interchangeable as far as the letters went. I used to get letters periodically from my father, and they were always typed and signed in ink. And gradually I came to realize that they weren't all written by him. Probably some of them, in fact, a good many of them, I'm sure, were composed by Jean O'Leary and signed with his name by her. But they were all in the nature of dealing with my shortcomings and telling me to buck up, and the kind of letter that you probably got. If you didn't, you should have.
Yeah, I gather it's well known. Your father was strict and expected a lot of you in terms of academic achievements.
He is very demanding.
Did this help? Did this help to spur you on? I mean, sorry.
Oh, yes, I suppose so. And it made you want to stay out of deep trouble. The trouble at West Point is that you do a lot of work all day and you're tired at night, so you don't study as much as you probably should, particularly if you're playing in sport, which I was. So during the call to quarters, the study period, I would tend to doze off, and during the season, my class standing would drop 100 files or so, and then I would hear from Washington, and I would try to improve.
Right. Okay. In some of the letters, your father seemed to sort of have a sense of humor, sometimes at least, communicated in some of these letters. Would you agree, or was it most of the time did he just come across as...
Yes, he had a very good...
If you could just say my father again.
My father had a very good sense of humor. It didn't always emerge to those that annoyed him, but when he was in the right mood, dealing with proper behaved people, his humor emerged. He had a sense of practical jokes that sometimes got sort of annoying to those that received them, but he liked a good joke. He liked the Marx Brothers, if you want some kind of a benchmark. He thought the Marx Brothers are the best movies of all. He liked vaudeville. Liked Eddie Cantor on the radio, Joey Pennock. You don't remember any of those people, but he enjoyed a good laugh.
Okay. These are details taken from Stan Norris's book. Apparently, Colonel Considine called you when you were at Fort Belvoir shortly after Hiroshima bombing, and he warned you not to speak to journalists. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. Were you aware of what the commotion was about at that time?
Well, that was the day that they dropped the bomb, and the newspapers' headlines were 6-inch letters, and everything on the front page was about the bomb. And Colonel Considine was concerned lest some unethical or whatever reporter got hold of me first. And they didn't. The Post got the word too, and the Post PIO showed up very promptly, and I was called out of class and taken in to be interviewed by the soldier reporter of the local Post newspaper. The papers weren't interested in me. They were chasing my mother.
Right. Okay. But until that point, did you know or have any inkling about exactly what your father was working on?
No.
Right. And were you? What was your initial impression? I mean, if you tried to say I was proud of my father, like was it pride? Were you impressed? Were you not surprised? Anything like that?
Oh, I guess you'd have to say you were surprised because it was something you had never thought about. But were you happy? Yeah, sort of, because we would have gone in, the people that I was with, we were all slated to go into Japan on November, December of that year. And judging by what happened in France, well, it would have not been very pleasant. So to that extent, you're sort of relieved, but then on the other hand, the war was over and we didn't get to it, and that's not good for your career. And we knew it even then. We regretted that part of it, but on the whole, all things considered, it was a great accomplishment, and we were very pleased with it.
And did your father talk? I'm not sure how often you saw him after the war, in the say the 6 months, a year, next 2 years after that. But did he talk to you or to the family about his experiences now that it was out in the open?
No, in the period immediately after that, I was in Germany for 5 years, so I didn't. When I came back, he was retired.
Right. Okay. And you've helped your father write his book, Now It Can Be Told.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say about that experience? Did you enjoy that?
That experience almost destroyed my happy marriage, for one thing, because I worked on it for 3 years.
So can you just say that again? I worked on the book, or Now It Can Be
On the
Told.
book for the better part of 3 years. His files were then down in the torpedo factory in Alexandria, and I'd come in one afternoon every week and write drafts of pieces of it, which I'd send up to him, and he'd mark them up and send them back, and this thing went back and forth. And about once every month or two, he'd come down here and we'd work together on it. And this went on up until the day that I climbed on the boat to go back to, well, I went to France at that time. And my wife was not pleased because I was teaching too. I bought a house, and to pay for the house, I had to teach at UVA in Maryland and Catholic U. And so all night, every night, I was either teaching or writing that book, and it was not pleasant. It was educational, but not pleasant.
And this would have been some of the most contact you had with your father for quite some time.
I learned a great deal about him then. I learned even more about him after he died when I had to straighten out his files. But yes, I got to know my father much better in his older life than I ever knew him. I knew him as a young boy. I left home at age 13, and after that I was a visitor, and he wasn't there a lot of the time. So I had not a whole lot to do, except there was no doubt in my mind who was directing me and guiding me, and who set the standard that I had to meet.
What was something you learned after his death when you were organizing those files? Surprised you?
You got a much better picture of a person's life after you try to arrange it chronologically, which is what I did. And I took the better part of a couple of truckloads of papers and sorted them out and put them in order by date, and then read them and tried to make sense out of them. And then you could begin to see what he went through as a cadet and as a lieutenant, and when I was a boy and all that.
Is there anything, I know a reasonable amount has been, written, said about your father. Is there any sort of idea that you think that is often missed, or not right, or not explained properly about your father?
Well, there are an awful lot of minor errors. Now, as to what's right and what's wrong, it's in the eyes of the beholder. You walk around a person from 360 degrees and you get 360 different perspectives. So I can't quarrel with people that said he was this, that, or the other, except when you know it isn't true. If they said his eyes were brown and you know they're blue, well, that's wrong. But if they said he was mean to somebody, I don't know, he probably had good reason. Well, a lot of people refer to my father in terms of violent, strong oaths. And I've got to tell you that he never swore in his life. His father was a Presbyterian minister, chaplain. He was brought up very strictly to think that was wrong, and he abided by that all his life. So you have to ask yourself, why do people keep saying this? Because it's prevalent throughout the literature. Anytime somebody quotes him, and I don't know, as we discussed, I don't know how they are able to quote him, but anyway, they do. And they always have him swearing. And the reason, I'm sure, is because when he chewed you out, you were chewed out so that your vocabulary couldn't express what happened to you in any other terms than blasphemy and obscenity. But he never uttered any such words in his life. But on the other hand, he could take you apart like you've never been taken apart, if you deserved it.
Okay. Let's see. In this is just hopefully so we can get some kind of summary similar to what you just said. But in Norris's Racing for the Bomb, you paid tribute to your father and said something like he was determined to succeed in everything he undertook. He played to win. He had no use for losers. That kind of thing. You don't need to. I'm sure you don't remember the exact words, but just if you could, how would you sum him up? I guess.
My father was very competitive. He was aggressive and competitive. He was brought up particularly by his mother. His mother, who died when he was 16, but you can see, you asked me what do I find going through his files. Well, I found letters from his mother, which I'd never been aware of before. And she always was after her boys. There were 3 of them, and General Groves, Dick, was the youngest. But she pushed him. You excel at everything you do. When he got to West Point, where you, under the Thayer system, which doesn't exist anymore, you had a daily grade in every subject. At the end of the week, they posted your grades, and at the end of the month, they posted the grade, and they resectioned you, and the smartest guys went in the first section, and the dumbbells went in the last. And you can look at his book. I've got one at home, The Register of Cadets, and you can see where he tracked his class standing down to the 5th decimal place. And he was determined to get to be number 1, and he was number 1 at the time he graduated, except he graduated early, so his overall standing, he came out 4th, but he was coming up very fast, and if they'd been there another 6 months, well, he would have been at the top. But yes, he was very, very competitive. He played games, not to play games, but to win. In football, he played center. He liked to, you could take him to football game and he watched the linemen. He wasn't interested in the backs. He liked the linemen. He wrestled. He liked to rub people's nose in the mat, climb on top of them. He always spoke of the Navy as being content to have moral victories. He said there's no such thing as a moral victory. There's a victory or otherwise you lose. And he was after the winning. No, he was very strongly endowed with a competitive spirit, and he followed it in everything he did.
Okay.
You didn't want to play a game with him unless, because you're probably going to lose. If you didn't, he'd come back until he beat you.
Okay. And I guess this is probably the last question, I think. In terms of Manhattan Project, from what I gather, he never expressed any. He was straightforward about being proud that there was a job to be done and he did it and that kind of thing. If you think that's fair to say, maybe you could just say something along those lines, or if it's not true, contradict that. Did your father speak about the Manhattan Project in the later years when you got to know him more? And how would you say your father, before he died, thought of the Manhattan Project and what he'd achieved?
Well, my father, number one, he had no regrets. And everybody, and politically correct kinds, would tell him that he should regret. Well, he didn't have any regrets. He had a job, a mission, and he accomplished it. He thought, and he spoke repeatedly of the opportunities that this thing opened up to. He told my wife when we were first married that the time would come when she could do her cooking with atomic energy. Well, that time never came, not yet. Will in yours, maybe. But he looked forward to the benefits from it. As far as the principal benefit was, it ended the war. And there was no doubt about that, and that was good. As far as how he felt at the very end, I think he was content. He had no regrets whatsoever. Was he proud of it? I don't think he was proud in this. Well, proud is a bad word in English. In French, there's 7 words that all translate into proud, but vain pride, orgueil, if you speak French, no, he never had that. Was he proud of what he accomplished in the sense of esprit de corps and things like that? Yes, he was intensely proud of the Manhattan Project and proud of the people that worked on it. All 200,000 of them, not just the fancy Dans that wrote books, but the people that out there doing the mucking around in the mud.
And this is the last question. One thing that interested me: did he ever express anything, I guess, about Oppenheimer, and in particular the way that he was treated after the war?
Not to me. In his files, well, he maintained a relationship with Oppenheimer right up till the end. It was a polite relationship. They weren't chums. I don't know what Oppenheimer thought of him. I can imagine what he might very well have thought. His outlook on Oppenheimer was he did the job that he wanted him to do, and leave it at that. He went through Princeton occasionally. When my sister was working at Princeton, he saw Oppenheimer. I don't know. He never said anything pro or con.
Right. And I guess just as...
If he didn't like you, he'd tell you to your face, and he wouldn't tell me that he didn't like you, he'd tell you. So if anybody knows what he thought about Oppenheimer, it would have to be Oppenheimer.